3 others surrendered to Nigerian military in Borno State.
Acting President Oshibajo stresses need to develop and disseminate alternative counter-narratives to terrorism and violent extremism.
Economic, financial and ICT experts meet in Abuja to chart a new path to Nigeria's economic recovery.
And with the signing into law of the Diaspora Commission Bill, Good Morning Nigeria today focuses on maximizing the potentials of Nigerians in diaspora.
All right, let's begin with money figures. Nigeria ranks highest in Africa in terms of remittances from the diaspora, with $20.8 billion in 2015 and about $33 billion in 2016. And that's according to Migration and Development Brief released at the World Bank's spring meetings in Washington, D.C., United States. Of course, that's in April this year.
Now, Nigeria also ranks 6th in the world, with India, China, the Philippines, Mexico, and Pakistan. These are where remittances to developing countries have amounted to some $429 billion in 2016, representing, of course, a slight decline of 2.4% over the figure for 2015.
Now, in 2017, remittances to developing countries are expected to grow at about 3.3% to $444 billion. Now, recent indicators suggest that economic activity in high-income and developing economies has firmed up, supporting a positive outlook for 2017.
Now, let's look at the manpower perspective. Statistics from Nigeria's embassy in Washington, D.C. show that there are no fewer than 25,000 Nigerian medical practitioners in the United States alone. Now, this number, of course, excludes other professionals, not just in the U.S., but in other countries around the world.
Indeed, Kingsley, we understand there are over 15 million Nigerians, scattered across the diaspora. But it's in recognition of the huge economic potentials among Nigerians in the diaspora, of course, which, as I said, is estimated at 15 million. The federal government in June this year launched a $300 million diaspora bond, and in March 2017, it aimed at getting their buy-in in financing development projects like, of course, infrastructure.
Now, of particular interest to us today, against the background of all that we have discussed, Claire, is the signing into law of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission Bill, which has been passed by the National Assembly. Now, of course, the acting president, Yemi Oshibajo, signed the bill into law. And according to the Senior Special Assistant to the President of National Assembly Matters, the bill was signed into law after a journey of 6 years in the crucible. Yes.
And of course, we must remind the viewer that there's a bill that was spearheaded by Honorable Abike Dabire Erewa, and we're glad that it has materialized, and the Diaspora Commission Act establishes the commission under the supervisory jurisdiction of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It has the responsibility to coordinate and organize Nigerians in and from diaspora to principally contribute human capital and material resources, including their expertise for the development of Nigeria and its constituent states. Now, how best could this be maximized going forward will dominate our conversation this morning, and that's the reason why we're here. I welcome you once again to this edition of the program, Good Morning Nigeria, live from Africa's largest TV network, the NTA. I am Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. As always, it's a pleasure having you join us.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. I also welcome you to this edition of the program, in the course of which we shall have our regular complimentary segments, including business, newspaper review, sports, and others. In the meantime, we're going over to our colleague who's right here with us in the studios for the morning news. And here is Ogeji Paul. Hi.
Yeah, thank you, Kingsley, and thank you, Claire. Welcome to the news segment of Good Morning Nigeria. 4 Boko Haram terrorists willingly deserted their hideouts to surrender to 120 Task Force Battalion, Goniri in Borno State. Among them is a high-profile terrorist, Konto Fanami, the Amir of Kafa hideout of the Boko Haram terrorist group that operates along Ajigin-Talala-Mongusum axis. Director Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Sani Kukashika Osman, in a statement, said during the preliminary interrogation, they confirmed that they abandoned terrorism because of incessant hardship and in realization that they were misled by their leaders. They further stated they were also erroneously misinformed and brainwashed about Islam and the Nigerian military and the society in general. The remorseful terrorists regretted their involvement in terrorism and marveled at the courtesies and humane treatment accorded them by the military on surrendering. They called on remnants of Boko Haram terrorists to renounce their devilish creed, as adequate arrangements have been put to receive all those that voluntarily renounce terrorism and surrender themselves. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has stressed the need to develop and disseminate alternative to counter narratives of terrorism and violent extremism. This is why receiving a delegation of the world leaders lands, also known as Club de Madrid, which includes 2 former African presidents, Festus Magai of Botswana, Kasam Mutem of Mauritius. In another development, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria has all the potential it takes to develop every sector of human endeavor. He was speaking at the Emir of Guzo's Palace as part of his official visit to Zamfara State.
I bring you also very warm greetings from the President, President Muhammad Buhari, who I had the pleasure of seeing just last week. About this, I left for London just about this time last week. And also to say that we are all deeply grateful.
The Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has called on law officers in various ministries of justice across the country to step up their functions so as to bring about a higher level of confidence in the nation's justice system. Judicial correspondent Femi Okewo reports that he stated this in a message to the opening of the 2nd Annual Conference of the Law Officers of Nigeria.
The public service is yearning for law officers that will command respect and enjoy the confidence of the Nigerian people.
And we feel if the justice sector reforms are prioritized, they will go a long way in stabilizing, not only improving the justice sector, but stabilizing the country.
Everything in Nigeria, whether prosecution, whether in political sphere or religious sphere, has to depends on the Nigerian template. But I can tell you that we are not very badly in terms of prosecution.
And in another development, money and music business, as well as alternative sources of financing in the creative industry, dominated discussions at the plenary sessions of the ongoing Creative Industry Summit holding in Lagos.
You can see the old brigade against the new brigade. You can also see that we've also been given the opportunity to look at, how it has been done in other parts of the world, in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, in India, in the UK, and in Nigeria. The whole idea is for us to take the best and from these countries and adapt it to our own particular situation.
Regrettably, 3 persons lost their lives in a flood disaster which occurred on Tuesday in Dede Town, a suburb of the Federal Capital Territory. Mr. Ekman reports that the FCT Minister, Mohammed Musa Bello, visited the area to commiserate with the people.
All those that are residing on the direct natural water course, there's a need for them to move, and then of course to clean the surrounding area so that when water comes back, as it will definitely do, it will have a natural way of flowing.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has destroyed over 24,000 kilograms of forfeited illicit drugs in the Federal Capital Territory. At the destruction of the seized drugs, Chairman and Chief Executive of the NTA, retired Colonel Muhammad Mustafa Abdallah, decried the increasing use of drugs, particularly among the youths in Nigeria.
There is therefore the need for us to intensify our efforts in both enforcing the laws and sensitizing the general populace. We need to ensure that drug traffickers run out of the market.
Another alarming observation is the increasing number of married women and females using substances.
In their efforts to fight the global menace and take down transnational organized criminal organizations benefiting from the drug trade.
Towards fighting corruption, economic, financial, and ICT experts from within and outside Nigeria are in Abuja to chart a new path for Nigeria's economic recovery through the use of big data projected to enhance efficiency in governance while saving costs. The gathering is the 6th annual e-government summit, which focuses on e-government catalyst for economic recovery and sustainable development.
Expected outcome after implementing the master plan is an ICT-based transformation of governance and the efficient delivery of government services and information.
Telephone calls, for instance, the text messaging, transactions and so on, because they happen so frequently and so on. So if you pile them in one place, that's what we refer to as big data.
The e-government includes when I want to get information about you, I need to keep it in a database and you turn into a digit.
And finally, the federal government has disbursed 243.795 billion naira for 2060s and the FCT. Well, that's the news. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue with Claire and Kingsley after the break.
You hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter. That might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Many Nigerian children cannot afford to go to school because they live in poverty. Instead of enjoying education and its benefits, they get involved in street trading to help themselves and their families survive. The Rochers Foundation is a humanitarian organization which currently caters for over 15,000 less privileged children in various schools all over Nigeria. The foundation has a goal to take thousands of less privileged children off the streets and provide them with free quality education from secondary school to the university as part of her Vision 2030. Admission forms are free and available online and at all Rochers Foundation colleges at Owerri, Jos, Ibadan, Kano, Enugu, Sokoto, Yola, Bauchi, Zaria and Oboko. For further details, visit www.rochersfoundation.org. Rochers Foundation, we educate to empower.
Nigerians, continuous voter registration is on at the offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission in all the local government areas and other designated centers. Please note that the exercise is not a fresh registration of voters. The current exercise is for persons who have turned 18 since the last registration exercise and those who did not register before. Persons whose names are on the voters register should not register again. If your permanent voter's card is lost or damaged, or you want to transfer your registration to a new location, registration. Do not register afresh. Just inform INEC officials at the registration center and you will be attended to. Remember, it's an offense to register more than once. This message is from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. INEC, making your vote count, consolidating our democracy.
And we'll take our first segment for today, and that's Talking Business. And for that, we join Amina Nushem.
Nigeria has listed the first infrastructure debt fund in sub-Saharan Africa. With the listing of the first tranche, Mr. Adekule Oyinloye, who is a development expert, describes the listing as a milestone for Nigeria's debt and capital market, as it will not only enhance liquidity, but also make market attractive for raising the funds to close the country's 31 trillion naira infrastructure gap.
It's like what the banks would normally lend to infrastructure. But because of the capacity of many of the banks to evaluate the risk and analyze risk in infrastructure, they're shying away from that area. Not that there's no money for it, but because it's easier to invest in government bonds and treasury bills, than investing in an infrastructure that has a longer term, expectation in terms of return.
In other business news, investment analysts have observed that Nigeria's investment share of GDP declined from 18.7% to 12.6% between 2007 and 2016, reaching the lowest level in the past 2 decades. In comparison to peers, Nigeria's investment rate lacks the average of 23.3% recorded for sub-Saharan African countries and 28.9% for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. According to analysts at the PricewaterhouseCoopers, there is a strong nexus between the level of investment and economic growth, citing China and India as examples of economies that have successfully attained investment-led growth. It was observed that the relative strong growth recorded in Nigeria at an average of 5.6% per annum over the past decade has been fueled by oil boom and population expansion, rather than investment. It suggested that policies should be geared towards creating an enabling environment for investment to thrive. The equities market opened the week Monday on a positive to sustain the uptrend last week. The Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index appreciated by 0.12% to close at 33,261.66 basis points. Next are details of Tuesday's trading from the NAC. And still on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NASDAQ and the Nigerian Stock Exchange have officially announced the launch of a new market surveillance platform that NAC powered by SMARTS, NASDAQ's flagship surveillance solution. The technology will, among other things, enable NAC to proactively monitor markets, detect and deter manipulative tendencies, gather intelligence, carry out traders monitoring and analysis, among other things. General Counsel and Head of Regulation of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Tinuade Awe, said with the new phase of development in the market, processing significant volumes of market information in real time to deter anomalies becomes imperative. NASDAQ's smart surveillance solution has been the industry's benchmark used by over 3,500 compliance professionals around the world and currently powers surveillance at 47 marketplaces. That is business news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues.
All right, thank you very much, Amina Nushem, for the business package and Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us, we go over to the front pages of some of today's newspapers to check out the headlines.
And my pleasure to welcome Omini Odin. Omini, good to see you.
It's my pleasure being here. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Kingsley.
That's right. Let's begin by taking a look at the front page of Daily Sun newspaper. Daily Sun has as its lead story with a kicker, aftermath of Supreme Court judgment. PDP, that's another kicker for it. McCarthy kicks out sheriff's men with 2 riders. Orders dissolution of splinter chapters as party schedules special convention for August 12th. They can do whatever they like, says sacked factions spokesman. Details of that can be found on page 4. Now, Nigerians spend $5 billion fueling generators. That's according to Dogara, who is Speaker of the House. And Melaye, APC sues INEC to stop recall. That story can be found in greater detail on page 38. And federal government orders residents to vacate flood-prone areas. And a photograph on the front page of the Daily Sun is showing the ruins left by the flood at Day community in the Buhari Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory. That was yesterday. Now, also there at the foot of the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper are the following headlines. 500 cows arrested in Abuja. And action aimed at ridding FCT of herdsmen activities, says Minister's Aide. That's on page 37. And 37 killed in fresh herdsmen and farmers clash in Kaduna. Details can also be found on page 37. And, of course, you have another story there on the front page.
All right. Also trading on the front page of The Authority is also the releases. Second Paris Club refunds. FG disburses 243.795 billion naira to states, and what H received is trending there, and for that you also turn to This Day. It's well laid out on the front page of This Day. That's talking about what each of the states received from the disbursement. Still on the front page of The Authority, we've got stories trending at the bottom. PDP dissolves sheriff's committees, holds non-elective convention August 12th. The details of that continues on page 2. And there are trending stories atop the nameplate. Include secondary schools in UBEC projects that's attributed to Governor Wike of Rivers State. Details of that on page 4. And you also have court fines NAFDAC 2 million naira for approving toxic Fanta and Sprite. Details of that on page 4. And there was also a story on Nnamdi Kanu leads IPOB's no election rally in Anambra State. Details of that on page 4. Omini.
Yes.
How do you go?
Well, the big news all over the papers is the second tranche release of the Paris refund to the states, including FCT. I love the way one of the papers took it. Most papers say 243.795 billion. But one of the papers said 246,795,465,195.20, meaning to the last digit. But I think Nigerians are going to test the ability of governors to allocate scarce resources, because in as much as a lot of them, maybe it was alleged they misused this money in the first tranche, you cannot say all the money given to you is all about salary. There are other infrastructure, other amenities begging for attention from government. But well, top on the list is the big five: Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Kano, and Rivers State. They all took 10 billion naira each. Well, the Minister of Finance says this money is to offset and enable the governors to meet up some of the challenges they are facing, mostly for workers to have at least some part on the back, maybe to meet up outstanding salaries and other matters. Meanwhile, the organized labor was very excited about it, but they are saying that governors should please not go against the guidelines on the use of the money. They should not misapply, misappropriate, or they will use the anti-graft agencies, ICPC, EFCC, against them. I think that's the big news, naturally. But one of the papers went further to say that beyond the release of the tranche, 2 governors, names not withheld, and that is quite surprising. One of the governors is to forfeit 500 million naira, and alleged to have been laundered in a mortgage bank. The followed application of the EFCC for the forfeiture of the money. The money was alleged to have been taken for the first PARI refund. The other one is a court to seize $500,000 of 3 million US diverted by another governor from the refund of the same PARI fund for the building of a 100-room hotel in Lagos. The court, however, said that any group or persons who feel that they have cause for government not to take up this money, they have 14 days to raise alarm over it. But quickly, the Federal Inland Revenue Service says it has hit 1.782 trillion in tax revenue between January and July this year. And that is a huge departure from last year. And also, there's also promise that they will also increase the generation of VAT in trillions of naira too.
Just let me draw your attention, Kingsley. The story that is trending on the court fines, on NAFDAC, and just to read about a paragraph or so from the inside page, it said, for failing to perform its statutory obligations to Nigerians on the dangerous chemical contents of, those products, a Lagos High Court has ordered the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, to pay a fine of 2 million naira.
Well, I don't have details of that story, but from the snippet you have given, it means that if you're a regulatory agency and you have your operatives, they should exhibit some measure of professionalism in whatever they are doing. Or maybe some persons either are complacent, are not serious, or maybe are not committed to what they are doing. Because if NAFDAC is a regulatory agency and they could pass something that's not supposed to be consumed.
All right, Obede, thanks a lot. But just to, briefly, just to return to the sharing of the PARI Club refund, it's ironic that the PARI Club refund is now being utilized for the payment of salaries and pension arrears. Because if you were to go back into time, you ask yourself, what was the basis for the loans in the first instance? For what reasons were the loans acquired? The loans were not taken because the government wanted to spend on recurrent. Yeah, the various state governments, of course, had their modes of expenditure at the time, obviously, and then the debts just got escalated, and at some point they couldn't pay, and then we had a debt burden on the nation. Now, the refund, the PARI Club amnesty that Nigeria got in terms of relief, the debt relief under the Abuja administration, was to the effect that, okay, we'll place a moratorium, we'll forgive all your debts, and then come back. But now the refund is being spent. For use. Yes, it's now being spent on payment of salaries. 75%. That's one of the conditions now for this second tranche that states that our own salaries and pensions should use at least 75% of.
That's why I use the word that the state governors are going to be tested on their capacity and capability to exhibit allocation of scarce resources, because you will not say that with all, not everybody in Nigeria is a worker. You have hospitals to attend to, you have schools to attend to, you have roads to attend to. So if the entire money goes to maybe, if you say the entire workforce in Nigeria, state, federal and local government put together, is about 2%.
Yes, and I still think that even states that, default, should be made public. It shouldn't be a hidden thing.
That is why the excitement by the organized labor, fine, but would they be able to put their foot down to ensure that the monies are properly used? All right. Because if the monies are misapplied and the governors walk away, like now, the governors have been stopped from spending further. So that is it. It's applying it appropriately, and it will play off. After the Minister of Finance says it is to cushion the effect of hardship. So beyond salary, what happens to roads? What happens to hospitals?
Infrastructure. All right. Let's take the Daily Trust. Daily Trust. Of course, the headline we read earlier from a Daily Sun is also there. This the ongoing Lex Talionis in different parts of Kaduna, particularly in southern Kaduna. 37 killed in Kaduna farmers herdsmen clash. That's on page 6 in greater detail. And then plus, of course, the second tranche of releases for the Paris Club. Now, directors write exams to fill 20 PAMSEC slots. Directors write exams to fill 20 Palm Sex laws. This is the Federal Civil Service, by the way, as federal government reverses policy on tenure again. Now, also there on the front page, below the photograph on the front page, of course, showing the PDP chieftains at their 74th National Executive Council meeting. You have a window of 3 other headlines. Security operatives take over NHI offices. NHIS stands for National Health Insurance Scheme. And the PDP approves August 12 for convention. Then Halliburton joins NNPC in search for inland oil basins. That's on page 13 in greater detail.
Yeah, just to clear, Kingsley, this day says it's a non-elective convention. That's talking about the PDP's convention you just took now. So PDP to hold non-elective convention August 12. It's on page 49 on the, of course, on the bottom page of this day newspaper. And then another lead story on this day says just above the nameplate, INEC tackles judges over Melaye's recall. There's a rider there, insists process must be concluded in 90 days. All right, quickly, Omini.
Well, naturally, after a major fight, the two fighters will have to settle down. If I fought with Claire, for instance, I would be like, okay, did she bruise me? I think PDP is settling in after the 14 months this thing, and we believe maybe in a matter of months they will give direction. But I think they had said that all the parties will be reconciled, and we hope that they will build towards that. I think one person who raised a serious matter yesterday was the Speaker of House of Representatives. The money he has talked about is not the cost of purchase of the generators. It is the cost of buying diesel and petrol to fuel the generators. That's the figure he's talking about. And he says that it calls for concern. And by the National Assembly, specifically the House of Reps, is going to work with the authorities saddled with the power sector to see what they can do to overhaul the sector. That the money is a huge amount of money to be spent yearly for the purchase of diesel and petrol for the generators. So if you add the cost of the purchase of generator, it would be a lot way higher than that.
It also calls for concern, for the process of recalling members in the National Assembly.
Yeah, then the Independent National Electoral Commission has gone to court to say, look, the court case, the litigation entered against them is stopping them from doing their constitutional duties, and that they are appealing to the Chief Justice of FCT High Court to say, look, please ask this court not to pass any judgment to stop us from doing our constitutional responsibility.
All right, I mean, very quickly, Blueprint newspaper will take the number of other headlines that we've read from other papers. But the lead story for Blueprint, by the middle of the page, says JAMB admits 1.9 million of 12 million candidates in 9 years. JAMB admits 1.9 million of 12 million candidates in 9 years, with two riders, Igbo tops list, FCT, Jigawa, and Zamfara lowest. It's danger in waiting. That's according to ASU and others. And then below the photograph there, showing the former governor of Sokoto State and then the incumbent governor of Sokoto State, along with, of course, the acting president, Yemi Oshibajo, while they received him at the Sokoto airport on his way to Zamfara for a one-day walk-in visit. Nigeria aims to be among 16 largest economies. That's according to acting president Yemi Oshibajo, page 9. 16 largest economy. We were aiming to be 20 before. Now we are climbing up to number 16. That's the projection.
I believe if the diversification really works, that will happen.
All right.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, let's see how it goes. Omeni Oden, we'd like to thank you for being with us. Of course, you were discussing earlier the economic costs, according to the Speaker, of purchasing fuel for generators. The healthy cost of course, has not also been itemized. The air we inhale from the noxious fumes coming out from those generators. Omeni Oden, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
See you sometime. All right. It's still Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be discussing the new list, as it were, for organizing and coordinating Nigerians in the diaspora.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. Not be only to connect lights.
Come you and yourself now.
Now wow. Oh boy, calm down now. Oga Kasali electrician, who would they look for with this? Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy, letting him talk makes sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder from over.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Chivita Active Fruit Juice, unique quality blend of 6 citrus fruit juices. Want to dance? Chivita Active. Be active. Do more. Get more out of life.
House of Cheese.
All right, you're welcome back. It's Good Morning Nigeria still on the network service of Africa's largest television network, Nigerian Television Authority. Now, the millions of Nigerians reside outside, of course, Nigeria itself, and a number of them have banded into a number of organizations or associations, and now known as Nigerians in Diaspora organization. And over the years, they've made their contributions individually and also collectively. But until recently, there was no formal framework to help coordinate their efforts. But this has been achieved now with the establishment of the Nigeria Diaspora Commission, a bill which was signed into law by Acting President Yemi Osinbajo. We have guests with us in the studio to discuss this development and, of course, other issues pertaining to Nigerians in diaspora. But as a prompt for that, we join our correspondent, Ngozi Chude, for a backgrounder.
One accepted definition of diaspora refers broadly to communities of individuals residing and working outside their countries of origin. Human nature has made people from time immemorial to move from one place to another. There's even been advocacy to de-emphasize country-by-country citizenship for world citizenship. Like people from all nations, Nigerians also live in different countries of the world. There is an estimate of about 15 million people resident abroad. Undoubtedly, the high number has been occasioned by numerous factors, ranging from colonization, slavery, conflicts to economic reasons and the quest for education, among others. Significantly, Nigerians in the diaspora have made tremendous contributions to the development of their host communities by deploying their professions and skills to bear. Unfortunately, they still suffer discrimination. Above all, reports indicate that there has been no effective impact of their roles in influencing some policies that could possibly affect them as a group. Central to these experts' points is the lack of practical involvement and engagement in their communities. Also paramount is the lack of cohesion among such Nigerian communities abroad. This is evident from the formation of ethnic, religious, personal or professional associations, little or no attempt to fuse together with a common voice and goal. Consequently, recognizing Nigeria as a force to reckon with by their host countries in policy-making processes has been absent. This has also created a gap in maximizing the potentials of Nigerians in the diaspora with a view to galvanizing infrastructure development back in Nigeria. All this prompted the Nigerians in Diaspora organization, NIDO, formed in 2001 with a vision to harness the tremendous skill, exposure and expertise of Nigerians resident outside Nigeria to better their lot. Grouped on a continental basis as NIDO Europe, Americas, Asia and Africa, the platform was also created to promote socio-economic and infrastructure development in Nigeria. As NIDO holds its Diaspora Week in few days' time, uppermost on the agenda is this issue of cohesion. How are they working towards addressing the gaps? What ways should Nigerians in the diaspora bring the necessary change? These and more will be discussed shortly on the program.
All right, Ngozi Chude, thank you very much. If you've just joined in, we're starting a conversation right away. And we're looking at, of course, the platform that has been provided by the federal government to maximize the potentials of our Nigerians in diaspora. And that's talking about the Nigeria Diaspora Commission law, which has just been signed by the acting president. Now I have right here in the studio the very competent guests to talk about this issue. To my far right, we have Abdullahi Dauda, who is first and foremost a forensic expert, but relevant to our discussion, he is a Nigerian in the diaspora in the United States. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Kingsley.
All right, and then we also have with us here in the studios the lawyer, based, of course, also in the United States, as Samuel Adewusi. So Adewusi, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And then joining us via Skype is another Nigerian who is resident in the UK. You can see him on the screen already, Alistair Shoyede. Alistair Shoyede, of course, runs Ben Television in the UK. Mr. Shoyede, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Good morning.
All right, gentlemen, let's start off this conversation beginning with Mr. Samuel Adewusi. In terms of having an organizational framework for the coordination of Nigerians in diaspora, their activities, their contributions, and others, we have seen a gradual movement from loose associations to NIDO, that's the Nigerians in Diaspora organizations, with various chapters, and then also with various regions. But here, this year, we now have a Nigeria Diaspora Commission. It was a bill that had been in the National Assembly for some years, but it's also been signed into law. What does this mean to Nigerians in diaspora, as well as to the formal structuring of the various associations that Nigerians, millions that they are, have now formed outside of the country?
I think it's a significant development. The signing of the act into law, the importance of it cannot be overemphasized. What we find is in the past is that we are not sure, the diaspora are not sure where to go to when they need help. They are not sure where to go to when they are bringing in investments. They are not sure, I can tell you now, the Association of Nigerian Physicians in America, they come home sometimes 4-5 times a year to give free medical services. They don't know where to go to. They don't get publication. They don't get publicity for their work and efforts. But this time, with this commission now, one of the related matters in which is responsible for is making sure that the act of all the diaspora organizations and everybody is, I would say, channeled into one and focused upon making sure that people know what to do, when to do it, and get publicity for all the work they are doing. I think it's a very, very good development for the going forward for the diaspora.
All right, let me bring in Madam Dauda into our conversation now. The clamor for this law, the Nigeria Diaspora Commission law, has been on for a very long time, and some of the objectives seem to be, functions, that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, seem to be doing. Is it that I'd just like you to tell us, is it that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is unable to manage, all these functions in all its entirety?
Well, thank you very much. As far as managing the function, you talk about function, really there are various organizations, as the chair has mentioned, that you have AMPA. You also have other Nigerian organizations out there. So what the federal government did in the intro, talking about the NIDO, setting up of NIDO, and the NIDO is a Nigerian organization. It's an umbrella organization that brings all those organizations together to work with the federal government. Now, as far as the foreign affairs, ministry been able to handle, in Washington, D.C., for example, in all our embassies in the U.S., we do have a diaspora desk that we liaison with and work and provide information that will go to our members or vice versa to the government. It's not that they're not able to handle it. It's as Barrister Dewusi has said, is that when we do have projects and all the things, we don't know, once we come to Nigeria, we don't know who do we work with, who will help us. Do we have a one-stop shop where Nigerians in diaspora, when they bring foreign investment or when they bring other items that will help the development of Nigeria, they can key in? And with the Diaspora Commission, now that belongs to Nigerians in diaspora to manage and also harness all those resources that we have. Remember, all the Nigerians in diaspora don't have to come back to Nigeria to be able to help develop Nigeria. They can be where they are, as long as they have a channel where the information will come into Nigeria and assist in the development.
All right. Let me also throw the same question to Ali Shoidi. Ali, it's good to have you join us via Skype from the UK. My question again is that when this law was being passed, was being pushed, over 6 years ago, it did get some knocks, and that was probably why it took this long time to, to be, assented to by the presidency. What are the gaps that our high commissions, our embassies, the Foreign Affairs Ministry cannot handle? Because in terms of data collation, which is what this commission, will be doing, and coordinating all the diasporas and, of course, coordinating the resources, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs also performs that function. So wherein does the Ministry of Affairs, where has it faltered?
I wouldn't say really is to do with where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has faltered, but whereby the Nigerians in diaspora, especially the professionals one, who have seen how things are operated in the Western world, they have gained a lot of experience. They know how to run institutions. So the capacity and what they have learned and what we're still learning is missing within the Nigerian system. And in the sense that the commission right now been approved, will now surely go in and galvanize. So the difference is the experience being gained by our Nigerians in the diaspora and the liking of the structure back home. Surely enough, there's no need to apportion maybe what the Foreign Affairs is doing or not doing, but more or less now is appreciative things and a gesture that Nigeria now will be able to benefit from her professionals who are outside the country, who really want to participate towards the national development of the country. I think this is the best time, really, bear in mind that the challenges, but of course, we have a lot of opportunities in the country. So now, really and truly, I believe that Nigeria is ready, especially with the commission being approved. But again, now we look forward to how the commission will be structured, the committee, the executive in there. And again, that will really direct the investment that many Nigerians in the diaspora are talking about, that they want to do, they want to bring into the country. By and large, this is a massive gain for Nigeria as a nation, a massive gain for Nigerians, because they know that they are professionals who are willing and ready to contribute, who are willing and ready to participate in national development, will be able to have that opportunity. And for me, really, it's not even just about the Diaspora Commission, but it's having and engaging, as you said, Ms. Claire, the opportunity of picking the best of our professionals into different aspects of the Nigerian institution, agencies whereby it's not just about having a Nigerian in diaspora desk at the embassy, but it's having the best of the Nigerians in Nigeria participating, contributing towards policy making and its implementation. When we look at some of the news just been mentioned earlier today from the newspapers, you can see quite a lot that absolutely desire and demand the ingredient and the input of our diaspora professionals from outside the country.
Well, Alistair, thank you very much. But just let's begin to break this down and then see how the Commission would work going forward, because the bill was signed into law only a couple of weeks ago. What kind of frustration or what kind of experience did Nigerians in diaspora experience in the past when they sought to interface with the home country? And the home country, of course, we also have to know that Nigeria, I'm sure each of the Nigerian who is outside there comes from a place, and that place, belongs to a village or a community or a state. So what kind of issues ordinarily were deterrent or otherwise frustrating for Nigerians, who wanted to actually come home and do something more useful for the country?
In almost every aspect of life, there's always an opposition. And in many situations, a lot of people who may not know the undertone and the real direction of the diasporan are not too comfortable to hear that the diasporan are coming home and to participate towards national development. Other people who really do not know anything will try to protect their own interests. But the interest of the Nigerian in diaspora, especially the willing one, is actually to participate and develop the nation. And Dauda is there, Barrister Adeusi is there. They flew in, I believe, from the United States towards the coming week's event. So when you look at the personalities, it's not about the gain that they're actually coming to gain in Nigeria, but it's what we can offer to Nigeria. Nigeria, for me, is the backbone on almost everything that I do. I came from more or less a village in Katsina, through Ogun State, through Imo State, through other states, because we are on the federal capital, to set up the business that we are doing here. And so are many thousands and millions of Nigerians. So the point really is, as I said, some people are afraid because they don't know what we're planning to achieve. But looking at the bigger picture, right now that at least we have the Diaspora Commission, it is a massive gain for Nigeria as a nation. It's a massive gain for Nigerians because we can now tap into the resources of these Nigerians. And it's not just tapping into it because, as Barrister mentioned, there are already thousands, not even hundreds, of different group of people coming to Nigeria on a yearly basis, some as many times as 4 times, to contribute, to train, to share their best experience. But now really we have the bill, and the bill, as long as we can immediately put it together, we'll be able now to coordinate. It's not just about having the data of Nigerians outside the country, but it will become a resource center whereby the investment that people want to bring into the country can be directed through the office of the Diaspora Commission, where you know that when you call the office, somebody will answer the phone and tell you, you're welcome to Diaspora Commission bill. How can I help? Not like when a lot of people answer phone calls in that place. And you wonder who it is. They don't tell you their name. They don't tell you the name of the institution. And in fact, when you say, may I know who I'm talking to? The answer you get is, why are you asking me who are you talking to? Didn't you know where you call? But this all will change because now we have an institution that would deal with it in a professional way and at the same time open windows, not just the Nigerians, but our stakeholders, other nations that want to participate and do business with Nigeria.
Ali, thank you. We'll get back to you. Let's again bring in Barrister Samuel Adewuse. Barrister, we know that you are the Continental Chairman of, NIDO America.
Yes, ma'am.
And before we look at the structure of the new law and other, implications, financial implications there, let's look at the capacity of the Nigerians in diaspora to even, change or, contribute to national development beyond remittances. What other remittances are we expecting?
Okay. I mean, as you rightly noted, the capacity of Nigerians in the diaspora, even some of the people in the overseas usually marvel at the capacity of Nigerians in the diaspora. I'll give you a simple example. At the Howard University in Washington, D.C., If you go to the medical department, you'll find out that the director of the medical department is a Nigerian. You find out that most of the people who run the medical department are Nigerians. Just this past, in 2016, you have people graduating from the architecture class, okay? Out of those people, you have at least about 4 or 5 Nigerians graduating cum laude, magna cum laude, and several of them, coming in the highest ranks of people graduating from that class. Now, don't forget, we have Nigerians in NASA, that is National Aeronautic Service Administration. Not only that, one of the people volunteering for us for the project we are doing next week for the ICT workshop, 5-day free ICT workshop. One of them is a contractor for NASA, working with the cloud system that takes a space vehicle to the moon. The other person is a professor for IT at Morgan State University, volunteering for us. I'm just giving you lists, and they are Nigerians. I mean, we talk about Jalil, the guy, I forgot his last name, Jalil Ali, who worked on developing the electric car system with automobile system. One of our another volunteer engineer, Obed Monago, works with GM. Our legal advisor he has masters in engineering and is a lawyer. Actually he works as a patent lawyer. You see, the experience is massive. The issue we face is how do you have a simple organization like Nigerian Commission to harness all those people and be the database so that anytime somebody needs to hire somebody, we keep talking about local content. Remember that. Anytime you need that, somebody would just type something in there and say, I'm looking for an engineer. Our president for Calgary chapter is a petroleum engineer. So the point is that the massive technology and intellectual property is there. The only problem we find is that there is no simple organism to harness those intellectual property, because it is intellectual property that can be now used to develop our country. That is where we are.
Yeah, well, fine, thanks. Again, let's still try to reduce this to the simplest terms in terms of operation.
Okay.
Nigeria is a country, as we all know, and it's a huge country. And
True.
you have 36 states, each of them with its own forms of administration, in terms of what their priorities are, and so on and so forth. 774 local governments, 6 of which are area councils and the FCT, plus the federal government. Now, the federal government will argue that whatever it is doing on behalf of Nigerians. States have their specific needs. Local governments also have their specific needs. How might a commission of this nature be able, in terms of aggregating or bringing together the various skills or talents that are out there, or in terms of ideas or investment that will come, to say, oh, these are the areas of needs for the specific tiers of government, and they are available to the diaspora people, key in there. How would that work out?
Well, I think that is what if you look at the setup for the structure of the commission, they have a Department of Administration and Finance, and they have a Department of Investment and Volunteer Service, and they have a Department of Integration and Welfare, and then they have a Department of Legal Services, Integration and Statistics. One of those departments should be responsible for doing that, and I will say, in my opinion, it should be the Department of Investment and Volunteer Services. It should be the one that will say, listen, this is how we coordinate between the federal government and the state government. What are the needs of this particular local government? What are the needs of this particular state? And how can we best deploy this massive intellectual property that I mentioned to help the states? And when the diaspora are bringing in investment, is this investment going to be best for, South Koto State? Or is it going to be best for Abia State? You see what I'm saying? And is it going to be something that will actually fit, Taraba or Adamawa? You see, those are the things that the commission will now start working on and focus upon, especially using those 4 departments that they have specifically. That is the way I say it.
What's your take on this?
Yeah, just to chip into what he said, we go back to the data in terms of how do you get the data to be able to arrive at those decisions. Because once you have a data, you do an analytic comparison to see, because information will come, they will be stored in the data, in the database. asset in terms of individual skills and all that, and they will be also stored in the database. So when a request or an inquiry comes, you look and say, okay, for example, we want to build the second Niger bridge, even though that's a huge project. So you look and see, okay, you're going to need architects, you're going to need engineers, you're going to need civil engineers and others. So you look within the database, there's going to be a lot of them. And you look at them and say, you go and also by merit. You don't just select someone because you know him. No, you go by merit. You select the best candidate that will fit that project, and you kick off a project. It's a project. And when it's a project, everyone gets involved in, but it goes back to the data. You have to have the data.
All right, thank you. I'm just wondering, the question is going to Alistair. Alistair joined us via Skype. Just again to look at the objectives and functions of the Commission, or we find in the Act itself, is to provide a direct link for Nigerians in diaspora to participate in the development of the nation. They did also to explore the huge reservoir of skills, knowledge, and experiences of Nigerians who live abroad for national development. And then, crucially, explore most attractive and cost-effective means for capital inflow or remittances, investments, transfer of technology, etc., by Nigerians in diaspora. Now, of course, together with attracting special skills. When you look at what we currently operate in the country, sometimes some persons, some of government officials have quarreled about the silo mentality. If you're looking at investment, for instance, NIPC might argue that's the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. Oh, this is our remit. This is what we do. Now, how can we, going forward, achieve proper synergy between the Commission upon takeoff versus other MDAs, departments or agencies of government and even ministries that are charged with coterminous responsibilities?
It's actually a supplementary angle to everything that they are doing, NEPC, NIPC, and all the other organizations that have to deal with the Nigerians or our international partners. This is a blessing in their own direction. First and foremost, let's look at it that the Nigerian diaspora, if I want to look at it as a business, it is a business angle. But the difference is the business angle and the investors, be it that they are Nigerians, know the best practice on how to deal with customers. This is all about customer relationship as well. So the Diaspora Commission at least will be able to deal in a professional and corporate way with Nigerians who want to come home and invest, with Nigerians who want to participate on their own will to develop and participate towards national development. That's the difference. So in order for them, we know all these other organizations where they are there, and they're doing the best they can. But the difference is the Nigerians who are willing and international partners who are willing knows that if you call the commission, you're definitely going to get good response, good reply to what you're looking for. And let's take, for instance, when somebody writes a letter to any of the agencies or one of the agencies, and you don't get a reply back within 28 hours or within 48 hours, then of course you need to query. But with the difference of the commission, we know that at least when you write in, you will get your response immediately because that is what you expecting from them, and that's the reason why we believe they're there. Business-wise as well, I believe that the agency, the bill, or the ministry will be able to generate its own income from the businesses that they will provide. As we mentioned the data, yes, for example, I have a collection of 100 of the best and the top Nigerian professionals around the world. It's a massive book. It's a massive data that we personally and I personally have. Now, if we're now providing services to, be it at state or local government, you provide a service and hopefully the organization will be able to generate income just like all the ministries do. So it will be self-funded, self-run. Nevertheless, as in the Nigerian system, there is budget every year. So in this aspect, at least one see that it will become a supportive ministry to these agencies that you mentioned. Look, going forward as well, it will support Nigeria because here, as we mentioned, it's not about who you know, it's about the top professionals who can render the services Nigeria need. And at the end of the day as well, it can on its own, actually, I want to believe, that bid for the so-called thing we call contract in Nigeria. Because if any organization and companies around the world want to propose to build bridge, build road, we believe that the commission as well, having the best of these Nigerian top professionals around the world, should be able to be in that position likewise to compete with the local people as much as it is a local organization. The bigger picture as well is, for me and many diaspora, it is a gain-gain thing for Nigeria as a nation. And so it will supplement agencies that are there. And the agencies as well know that, in fact, because they know the Diaspora Commission organization or agency is around the corner, they will be able to support them, provide them information of how to do business outside the country. For example, when Nigeria is traveling to go and negotiate deals with other organizations or countries around the world, the benefit here is actually you can tap on the agency to give you the best professionals that know how to do deals and do business and handle them when you're coming out of the country. That is another benefit for Nigeria to explore. As we have our Nigerians across the world, we go to other countries to negotiate. My belief is we should call some of them to act at least during those conversations. Who can I explain? When this guy says ABC, actually on the tone, this is the meaning of this. And Nigeria as well will begin to get better deal with other partnering organizations and countries that we want to do business with. So let's look at it as a blessing to Nigeria. Let's look at it as a blessing to the diaspora that have been agitating and calling for this for the last 10 years. And at least now that has been done. But again, let's look at it that as much as the acting president generously and with thanks has approved the commission, we look forward to the commission being established, composed immediately, rather than having any delay into months before we now say the organization has become real. Where is the office going to be? We need this to be done within the shortest time, in fact, within months, rather than long process of waiting. And I think all this thing will help in really bringing this bill home and a dream becoming a reality for the benefit of Nigeria and Nigerians outside the country.
Thank you. You've talked so much about this, and I know also that you've been at this issue for a very, very long time. But I'm still interrogating the rationale and wisdom in this commission, being that this commission, would also be supervised by the parent ministry, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So might there be a time when we'll have issues of duplication of functions? And besides, you also have, your organization, which is the organization that, brings together all diasporans. That's the NIDO. So wouldn't it have been much easier if NIDO, you had NIDO to interface with government whenever you have, contributions to make, since it's not what you're getting from Nigeria, but you're giving?
When there is a gap, somebody needs to fill it up. If the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been dealing with the diaspora for some time, the truth of the matter is the Nigerian diaspora will not have asked for the Diaspora Commission. That means there is a gap, there is something lacking, and that's the reason why now we have the Diaspora Commission. And that's the reason why now at least it has been set up, approved by the presidency. So going forward, really, I would not see it as a duplication of role or duties between the agency and the Foreign Affairs or any other institution in Nigeria. As I said, it will be a blessing. It will become a hub, a data center, an information center. And again, for the benefit of more than 14 million Nigerians outside the country, they will now at least relate to something that something that belongs to them, because the composition of the ministry dealing with this Diaspora Commission is by the diaspora members from around the world. At least about 13 of them comes represent USA, Europe, Asia, Africa, many other places, will be the board in this commission. So looking at it, anybody and everybody would be happy to associate to say, well, at least I know this is our own. And the members there, the board there, are members of the diaspora organization from around the world. NIDO definitely spearhead the call for the Diaspora Commission, because we saw the lack, we saw the gap, we saw the miscommunication and the need to galvanize them and strengthen a platform.
Shame. We have a freeze there from the Skype. We hope that clears up. Alistair, we'll come back to you once we re-establish the Skype connection. Samuel Adewusi, you wanted to say something?
Just a follow-up, a quick follow-up. If you look at the composition of the commission itself, it is not going to be directly under the rubric of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Based on what we can see, according to the commission, the way it's set up, it has a governing board. The only thing that the that the Minister of Foreign Affairs is going to do is, recommending to the President the Director General, the position of the Director General. If you look at the governing board, you have the 11 director level from different ministries. Okay, one representative each from NIDO Americas, NIDO Asia, and NIDO Europe. Then you now have 3 servants or retired diplomats serving part-time. The only, they are serving, all of them serving part-time for 4 years, 2 terms. So the governing board will be responsible for drafting, all the policies, setting the policies. The Director General will be the one running the day-to-day affairs. Has nothing to do with the Minister of Foreign. The only thing the Minister of Foreign Affairs is doing is recommending, that particular position according to the commission. But just to, hark back on what you were saying, and you have the right, every Nigerian have the right to say, listen, why are we setting up this commission? But the issue you face now, like you said, it's a serious gap. You see, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has their job. Their job is not to be inside Nigeria and work with the diaspora. Their job is to be out there at the embassies, working, with Nigerians outside. The commission is here, serving the purpose of dealing and, bringing Nigerians back to work and contribute to the development of Nigeria.
Mr. Adewusi, thank you very much. I'm sure that you are also familiar with this. If you haven't personally experienced the frustration, Nigerians who are outside complain about the sometimes appalling quality of service that they get from Nigerian missions outside. So where would the data come from with regard, for instance, to Nigerians who are in the diaspora? Ordinarily, the missions should have a register of Nigerians who are resident, and if your nationals are not coming to you, to say that this is who we are, this is what we do, then there is a challenge. So are we likely, because when it becomes operational, are we likely to overcome the challenges that Nigerians have always faced with regard to dealing with their embassies?
Definitely. I think so. Well, because the commission is there, the commission will serve as, how can I say this, like a champion for the diaspora. You remember now, you cannot go, majority of the time the National Assembly serves as, like a supervisory role, for all the ministries. The commission, when you send your request and you send your complaint back to the commission here, the commission takes it straight to the presidency and it takes it straight to the National Assembly and say, listen, this is what our people are facing. That actually is an impetus. I would say it serves as a driving force to get somebody to say, listen, hey, somebody is going to know what I'm doing to my people in, the Republic of Kazakhstan, where we have the mission. And the fact is that they already reported me to the presidency, and they are likely to go back to the National Assembly to tell them what I've been doing to them. So that is what the commission is going to be doing. And I think that will really, help, everybody to sit up, do what they are supposed to do. Instead of, yes, there are, serious problems. Don't get me wrong. There are serious challenges. But it's because before now, Nigerians do not have somebody representing them or a body that will be championing them to get, stuff done for them.
What are those serious challenges?
Exactly. That's what
what are those serious challenges?
What are the challenges, apart from access and bureaucracy that Ali has talked about?
Yes.
For instance, we've got a lot of deficits in infrastructure.
Yes.
We've got a lot of issues with our power system. So how have the diasporans tried to, contribute in these sectors, and you've met setbacks?
Well, that is true. We've met setbacks, serious setbacks. There is, July last year, we were supposed to be working with a nameless ministry, and we were supposed to get some documents, signed. As of July 2017, we haven't gotten the documents. It, got lost somewhere between, walking from that ministry to another ministry supposed to do the vetting. So, yes, serious setback. There are people who come down here with proposals. I will tell you, our legal advisor did a proposal setting up a system that will help, improve the patent laws in Nigeria. You know what happened? He brought the nice proposal down here. They told him, yeah, this one looks nice. Somebody took the proposal from him, struck his name off, put their names on there, and use it to collect funds. So, yes, it is there. But what I'm saying is that going forward, knowing what we know, you see, anybody who is not learning from there is nothing wrong with making mistakes. you should embrace mistakes. You should focus on your errors, but how do you learn from it? And what do you do?
All right.
That is what this commission will do.
Samuel Adewusi, thank you very much. Alistair, as well as Abdullahi. Gentlemen, we're still having you in the studios, and of course, via Skype for Alistair in London. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with aspects of this conversation.
The Future Assured project of the wife of the president, Aisha Muhammad Buhari, is carrying out free medical screening and distribution of food items at various IDP camps while ensuring the economic empowerment of women through training and skill acquisition. In recognition of her efforts, wives of governors have lent their voices and support.
In Kogi State, we feel the impact of Future Assured, especially in women and children.
The Future Assured program of Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, the wife of the president, has been very assuring and still reassuring in Sokoto State. It has impacted positively in the areas of humanity, especially women and children.
Supports the Future Assured initiative. Email programs@futureassured.org.ng. Future Assured, promoting and protecting the lives of Nigerian women and children.
Achievers always believe in 100%. Breakfast isn't complete without Chivita 100% fruit juice, made from real natural fruits with no added sugar. So to be at your best, start every day the Chivita 100% way. With 100% quality, 100% commitment, 100% goodness, 100% achievement. Start your day the Chivita 100% way.
You fall victim because you care about saving a little money.
When I'm not blind, I'm not stupid. I'm here to cross over and take Sole, ferry ship.
You fall victim because you care about your car.
What is it? Smoke. Smoke.
They cash in on your fear.
A dangerous road they so then they rob people, they keep it for years.
And they point.
You want to I get it done by go call them.
This week, your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull, dwells on roadside wars of the people in this episode titled Point and Kill. We are not talking about fish. Beware.
This is impetuous. This is prodigious. This is wondrous.
And laugh like never before.
How dare you enter my house without at least knocking?
Why are you trying to become my dear sweet professor?
I am sweet Abednego.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network. Glow Unlimited.
All right, thank you for staying with us. We are discussing how we can maximize the potentials of our Nigerians in diaspora using the platform just extended to by the acting president, that's the Nigeria Diaspora Commission. And we're looking at some of the hiccups or challenges, to accessing the contribution, making your contributions. Because Madam Dauda, you wanted to share your experience with us.
Yes, I was going to add to what Barrister said in terms of the gap. And I think for some of us who are professional project managers, when you look at a project, you look at the flow, you look at the timeline, the resource and all that. And in some of the, I guess, the gaps between the ministry and the Nigerians in diaspora, what is happening? When you look at it, you look at a word called M&E, monitoring and evaluation, which is like it's missing completely. So he made an example of when we have the Diaspora Commission here, when there are issues out there, it will come back to the commission and it will be escalated and people will see it. So let's assume that we have those monitoring and evaluation within the foreign ministry that helps with the Nigerians in diaspora. Because I know in each of the each of the embassies out there, they have a trade and investment minister who's supposed to deal with foreign investment and work and how they relate it to the home foreign affairs and get those going. The diasporans actually are missing in those because most of those foreign trade and investment are done with the foreign indigents in those countries, not necessarily the Nigerians. The Nigerian Commission will deal strictly with the Nigerians and also with other foreigners that will be in a supporting role. So we have the say to do what needs to happen in a professional standard way in terms of making sure that everything is done and is monitored and is always evaluated to see if that is the best practice to go forward. So we would be in our control. I was just telling Barrister, when we came 2015, we had some proposal, NIDO, globally, that we made to the federal government in terms of what the diasporans are going to be doing to help the federal government. Good governance, converting corruption and the rest, which the current administration is doing, and they're doing a good job in that. Reposition Nigeria for better investment, because everyone talks about inflow. How do we get the inflow? With this Diaspora Commission now, you have a sector that deals with that, will deal directly with the diasporans out there, and they're here at home. They know how to marry this inflow that is coming. We talked about the plugging the infrastructure and the security in Nigeria. So remember, the Diaspora Commission is here in Nigeria. They know what the issues are. They also have knowledge of all the diasporans out there. So they're doing the connecting.
Synergy.
They're bringing in the experts, they're bringing in the resource, they're helping, working with the Nigerians. And all this thing happening, there will be Nigerians involved in it. It's not just the diaspora.
Bala Abdullahi, Adauda, thank you very much. Well, that's a point that I would also like us to address, and my question is going to Alistair Vasquez from London. Alistair, you've been around different parts of the country, and as you very well know, there are all kinds of issues, all kinds of development challenges that local governments and state governments have. Some observers have the view that NIDO or the Commission as it is now tends to focus more on the federal government. Everything federal government, everything federal government. Could we have a situation, for instance, where you have a trickle-down effect, or alternatively, there's greater focus on the subnational governments? What role could Nigerians in diaspora play, at the subnational level? As I said earlier, after all, the Nigerians who are out there, they come from some local government, they come from a state. Why are we having an excessive focus on interactions or interface with the federal government?
If I get that question right, talking about the Nigerians in diaspora dealing with the federal government. As you know, almost everything in Nigeria starts with the federal government. And then from the federal government, then it trickles down to the national and to the local government. Having at least the Diaspora Commission established means that the organization, as I added earlier, that one will see as a business platform, whereby they will engage with the best of the Nigerians who have the professional and the corporate knowledge of providing the services towards national development. So I don't believe that it's only going to focus on the federal government. It's going to work across all board. The most important thing still that we're talking about here is that the organization, the Diaspora Commission bill, setting up the office, will bring together the Nigerians who are willing, because one has to agree that those Nigerians who are willing, because people have dual nationalities, and if you follow, there has been a time that we were celebrating the 7 Nigerians in the United Kingdom who happen to become now members of the House of Parliament. And some of them actually still believe that they are just British rather than Nigerian. So it's the willing Nigerians who are happy to participate. And we know of thousands, if not millions, that are willing to do that. So I guess it will be a benefit to Nigeria. But of course, everything starts from the federal government. But it will trickle down all the way to local government policy, local government services, local government management, local government development across the country. Let's look at it like when you have a domain or when you have an app. The app brings together the idea of a business, or even if it is music, entertainment, or movie. The Diaspora Commission likewise now becomes that hub, that platform that will engage and bring you the best of these Nigerians who are willing to provide you with alternative services, alternative business, alternative contractual work that abounds in Nigeria. So as I'm seeing it, really is that the commission is there. The commission has been established. Now we wait for the composition, which should be hopefully within weeks rather than months. And then providing that platform, even if it is not, for example, NTA, looking for the best of media personnel, in order for them to build a new studio across somewhere in the country. Of course, as you go to the market, then you remember, well, actually, there is a hub. There is a platform of Nigerians Nigerians outside the country who have these professionals. Maybe you can tap into that, and we will likewise. I believe the organization will be able to write their proposal, and if they suit what you're looking for, which then, as I said again, looking at it from the business angle, they'll be able to deal that. And there is no organization, no agency, no ministry. We have the capacity or the data or the number of the so-called professionals, number of the so-called engineers, lawyers, whatever it is that you're looking for. I believe now Nigeria has got a platform. And in fact, by and large, it might not even look only to deal with Nigerians. It will look to help other organizations who want to come to Nigeria and looking for somebody that has an understanding of the Western world and more understanding of the Nigerian institution and the way Nigerians behave. So it is an answer. It is a solution. There isn't any organization, as I said, or ministry or agency that will have the capacity of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission ministry office that is now approved and to be set up in Nigeria.
So that we don't, of course, give the wrong picture, you know, we run a federal government where each of the federating states, of course, have their own responsibilities. And that's, of course, what Kingsley, you know, was trying to, you know, let you know. But
that's right, and Clay, just the fact is that, I mean, Alistair, you made a point that everything in Nigeria begins with the federal government. I'm afraid that there are a number of Nigerians, constitutional purists, who will vehemently disagree with that position. Yes, right.
And in the follow-up, and again with what Kingsley said, in terms of concentrating in the federal government, in the past we've had diaspora days, and part of our program is we invite all the states governments to come to the diaspora day after the presentation and everything has been done. Each of the states take home their diaspora and identify them, take them back to their state and have their own diaspora synergy. I've been in Nigeria and I get calls from some of the diaspora desks in like Imo State and Osun State and
like
Lagos. There are diasporans desks in the state, and I think with the Diaspora Commission, that should be encouraged more. And I know for a fact that there are diasporans in the U.S. that have gone straight to Maiduguri to provide the IDP, resource and other things. And these are things they do that is not publicized, it's not, but we know, the diasporans, we know that this is happening. So there are already that move in terms of the state, and you're right, Nigeria is a federalism. It's not just the federal government. The federal government is just the anchor, but the state are the tentacles, and they are involved in this. So we should continue to encourage it in the Diaspora Commission to make sure that when the commission comes to play, the state and the local government are not left alone.
Okay, Barrister, they will say, in addition to your response, are there visible values, you know, that we can really identify in the rural areas that NIDO, not the commissioner, that NIDO has been able to, you know, provide over these years?
Well, I think you know, you are correct. I haven't, you know, to my knowledge, NIDO has been working, you know, very much to work with the local government at the rural levels. Take for example, you cannot do serious farming, any serious farming, in Nigeria without going to the rural areas. There are some diasporans who have come back home and just bypass everybody. I just gone down to the rural areas and start farming, you know, serious mechanized farming, value-added farming. You know, there are some of us who are thinking about, you know, going back into food processing. We are not going to come back to the federal government.
That's right.
You have to go to the rural areas, and you have to cooperate with the rural people. You have to make sure they know you, you know them, and work with them, you know, very much so to make sure that this thing, you know, your, in food processing and value-added agriculture works. So that is one of the areas in which, you know, NIDO has actually, you know, seen that. But to piggyback on what Alhaji Dauda said, this is a federal system that is being run, you know, it's a system that flows from the United States, you know, Constitution also. The power comes from the state. And, you know, it is just the residual power that goes to the federal government. If we can really operate the presidential system as it's supposed to be, you know, the way they have it in the U.S., everybody, you know, will have their roles, and the states really, really need to step up. And the commission, this is some of those things that the commission needs to work on to make sure that every state that doesn't have a diaspora desk should really make sure they have one now, and start liaising with the commission and make sure that this synergy works best.
Might it also be helpful, just to indicate before we take Claire, before we take our tweets, might it also be helpful, again, if you want to draw from the Constitution, now you're talking about the allocation of powers. If you go to the schedules of the Constitution, you have exclusive, and then of course you have the concurrent,
and the residual powers.
Exclusive, concurrent, and residual. Might it be helpful in this regard? Because if the consensus is that yes, it will be useful to have greater synergy between the states, and the states having their own diaspora desk and the diaspora commission, as we have it now. That's for the commission to focus on, perhaps, shall we say, big issues, big projects, and then for the states also to focus on local and related issues, so that the diaspora commission at the federal level or at the national level doesn't just take on every and all matters. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts? Abdullah first, and then we'll come back to Sam.
Well, it's a good thought in terms of doing that. And again, I look at it really as a project. You have the federal project, you have the state project, and you have the local government project. And you look at individual project in terms of what their benefit to the people of those local areas are and the state, and then address them in that order in terms of actually performing and implementing what those projects are going to provide. For example, I just want to throw, in 2010, we had a diaspora day in Mina, and the Europe region brought solar power. There's a town called Kampala in Mina area. We went there, installed the power for them. These are local villages. So with the diaspora day, and I think with the diaspora commission, you can identify and say, okay, every year these are the plan. It doesn't have to be a yearly thing. It could happen instantly. Once the need is needed and the solution is available, you mobilize the folks that are going to come down and help and do it instantly. As we said at the beginning, this is a tremendous opportunity that Nigeria can really benefit with.
Okay, Pastor, that was a quick list before we can take our tweets. So you want to chip in?
No, I think you said everything.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Time for us now to take our tweets. We've got some reactions coming in. You can slip.
Yeah, Sonny Michael Amakoji is first. He said the act, that is the Diaspora Commission Act, among other things, is going to stimulate healthy competition amongst Nigerians in diaspora to assist the Nigerian economy grow.
And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, this is official recognition of diaspora Nigerians' contribution to the development of Nigeria through annual remittances worth billions of dollars.
And Dilly Jack Solomon tweets, this gesture has further given teeth to the government's self-professed interest in partnering with its citizens abroad for national development.
And Sani Michael Omakoji, this bill is long overdue. However, it's a welcoming development as it will help to unveil who is who outside Nigeria.
We have another one from Dilly Jack Solomon. Tweets, kudos to Acting President Oshibajo and the legislature for signing the Nigeria Diaspora Commission bill into law. This will enhance external contributions to the nation's development.
And Mike Kanyakwo, also a commendation coming from him, a welcome development as it will encourage diaspora Nigerians to invest here in the country. This will help in reducing capital flight.
Shakiro, Nigerians in diaspora are our mirror. The responsible ones should be encouraged.
All right. Okay. We also have Sani Michael Omakoju again, and this question is directed to Barrister Samuel, and it says, is your concern limited to urban areas alone? If no, what has been the contribution of your organization in rural areas?
Okay. And then Pastor Arisha Monde tweets, it says the Diaspora Diaspora Commission Act is a good step in the right direction. Federal government should do all it can to implement it in order to boost the nation's economy.
Well, I'll ask Sani Michael Omakoji's question, but I already asked before. We have asked that question.
That's
but
right.
it says, before the signing of this act, what are the challenges of Nigerians in diaspora to contribute to Nigeria's economy?
All right. Onekata Abdul Barrio, Onekata Abdul. Signing the bill for an act for the Diaspora Commission is a welcome development because they have more to offer. Now, those are the issues that our viewers have raised by way of tweets. We are unable to immediately return to Alistair in London, but via Skype. But there's an issue that I would like us to deal with, the gentlemen, that's Abdullahi and Samuel in the studios. And Alistair raised the point. And that has to do with what he talked about, the quality of our negotiators and the quality of negotiations. Namely, he says that, look, you have a number of Nigerians who are domiciled in a particular environment or a particular locale where negotiations might be taking place. And some experts who have interrogated various protocols or treaties that the country, has entered into have often been aghast as to how this has happened. Is this one area that the government could readily explore very easily to say, in addition to the technocrats you have in the MDAs, there are Nigerians who are out there who could assist you with local intelligence, who could also assist you with insider knowledge, greater expertise in helping Nigeria to negotiate and get better deals for conventions, protocols, or whatever it is. Again, we'll come back first to Samuel.
Maybe because I'm a lawyer, and when I was finishing law school in 1995, that was what I wanted to do, to come back to Nigeria and actually do and say, listen, anytime you guys are going out, the Nigerian government is going out, you need to have that, especially when you deal with international laws and the areas where you need technical skills. Right now, I am sorry to say, I will give you an example. United States government, they hire in the State Department and the Commerce Department. I will tell you now, they don't send anybody to these international treaties who, they will blanket the place with lawyers. It is not because they want to litigate it to death. What they are doing is to make sure that their interests are protected. Nigeria is the only country I know, at least in Africa, that never sends lawyers to this stuff. Not only that, they will bring in experts in all those areas. So when they get this stuff, I would say months in advance, and they start looking through this stuff, they send it to experts, and Alistair is totally correct. This is something that Nigeria should be doing. You don't go to any treaty without coming down, negotiations that without coming down to your experts in those areas and say, listen, we just checked the database. We know that you are in the aeronautic areas. We know that you're in the medical area. We know you are in the GMO area. You remember the GMO stuff that was signed? Nobody in the diaspora was ever consulted. Seriously. And we know, so majority of us know the damage that the GMO is doing to the human, psychology. You do not ask people who haven't, been in that area and see what the prevailing literature on GMO has been, and then, just sign it. What for?
Madam Dauda.
Yeah, and I think just to add with that, it's not just necessary sending lawyers and the rest. It's also when a trip is made either by the presidency or by or governors or other, the contingents that they take, it's not just people that should just go for visit. It's people that will go listen, take notes, take some action steps. So when they come back, they just don't go back to their home. No, they take those documents and they follow up and make sure that what they went and did doesn't go to waste when they come back. That needs to be encouraged.
Make sure you prepare. At least, I'm not kidding you now, that is what they do, at least 4 weeks in advance. You don't go the next day. You get the documentation, you get people review it. Send it to experts, send in their stuff, put it in Google Documents. Everybody contributing. So before you get there, you already have your position, set up.
Before the advent of social media and then Nigerians, of course, went in the diaspora, I was just saying this with regard to soccer. Local intelligence, if you were Nigerian or if you were a resident in another country and your country was going to have a match against the other country, you would be in a position to indicate, the skills or the weaknesses of the team, of the particular players.
Thank you.
It's true.
That is what is done everywhere.
Yes, gentlemen, just before we quickly look at the other pair of this law, which was not signed, that's the voting right. I'd just like to ask, Madam Dauda, this commission, will it also, apart from the stipulated, objectives, will it also look at the plight and, conditions and welfare of Nigerians in diaspora? Because right now, that is also of major concern.
Well, it's a diaspora commission. So the responsibility, yes, will be, but liaising and working with the foreign affairs, because that's the foreign affairs role in those countries. But the commission will play a major role, yes, to your question.
If you look at the title, because the Nigerian bills always have the purpose in the title. It says to ensure the protection of Nigerians in diaspora. I will believe that, and also we'll be issuing travel alerts and travel advisories to Nigerians. I think that, kind of encompasses the question you ask. What would be the role in making sure that Nigerians are protected? And, basically, if you have 11 director levels of, governing, members of the governing board in there, all of them working together, should be able to say, listen, we just find out that this person in, people in the, let's say, in Czech Republic are having problems. How can we all work together to make sure that this, we protect them? Okay. That is what the issue do.
Okay.
Yeah, back again to the issue of voting rights. I mean, that's an issue that's been on for several years as well. Yes, it's been on for several years. Voting rights for Nigerians in diaspora. We've seen it in other jurisdictions. Where South Africa had the first non-racial elections in 1994.
The diaspora voted.
Yes, of course, South Africans.
Niger has two members of the diaspora, 2 seats reserved for the diaspora.
What are the concerns, really?
What are the issues? What are the issues? What are the challenges in scaling the hurdle of getting diaspora voting? To have the right to vote?
Basically, the last time we somebody did an interview, I read it in the newspaper. They were saying that the part of the Electoral Act had to be amended to allow diasporas,
electronic voting.
Yes, and Nigerians overseas to vote. And I thought that would have been done. One of our former chairmen in Naidu Americas, Chief Okoye, set up Nigerian stakeholders. The Nigerian stakeholders met, through their, charge group, and we actually, did work on a bill that was, drafted. I actually chaired that, group to, work on making sure how can we, whatever deficit is there, how can we work with that? So we are going to be, liaising with the National Assembly, and they have been kind, because we came to them in February this year and told them that we would like this NIDCOM bill passed, Nigerian, Diaspora Commission bill passed. And before we know it, they promised that by end of March they will do it, and it was done. So we are going to go back to them again, as the, an umbrella body, and talk to them and say, listen, you guys have done so well. What can you do for us at this time to make sure that the voting bills, whatever deficit is there, whatever any part of the, Electoral Act that needed to be amended, can we get it amended? And just focus on getting these bills passed. So.
All right. Take this along with you, because we're rushing for time now.
Okay.
We launched the Diaspora Bond.
Right.
We also had the European Bond. Right. What are your impressions? What do you think?
Well, I wish I was a financial expert, but based on the information or the discussion in the diaspora, especially the last one that was done, I was in a simple word, it was a disaster in terms of you can't have a bond before even they start publicizing it. Is oversold by how much?
It's oversubscribed by 130%.
By 130%, and yet within the diaspora community, we've tried to find out who were involved, who had the foreknowledge, and the rest. We're still looking. So I hope that
it's just a diaspora in name only. It has nothing to do. Diaspora didn't even buy a single. I don't think we bought a single.
No, but I think we had the former Director General of the Debt Management Office on this program, and he indicated the mechanism for the transaction. It wasn't as if that you had a door-to-door advertising of diaspora bond for sale. That there are agents. Usually, and then you go through those agents who will then do the retail transaction for the bonds.
We don't mind. They don't need to name it diaspora.
Right. The other information.
Sell your bond.
No, well, it's not. No. For you to get into the U.S. market, for instance, you would need such agency transaction. You would need such agency role.
It was done, but the point is that because of the viability of Nigeria, I'm sorry, Alhaji Dauda, because of the viability of Nigeria and the kind of environment, the kind of enthusiasm that people have for Nigeria to actually pay back its debt, it was simply oversold. And remember, in most of the developed countries in the world, the interest rates that people are getting like about 2 to 3%. When somebody is selling something that is about 6 to 7%, I mean, it's a business decision. That was why it was oversubscribed.
Okay,
pure business decision.
Finally, funding of this commission is it's a major issue. How is it going to be funded? Is it by budgetary provisions or?
Yeah, I think it's
been a diaspora thing.
No, it says right there in the bill that it's, that there is a special section that says that a certain amount of money would actually be earmarked as a budget for it, and it will start immediately. All we have to do is make sure that once the executive department and executive branch start forming the commission, it's now up to the National Assembly to now appropriate funds for it as called for in the bill. There is a section of the bill that actually talks about the budget and how much budget will be set for this the commission.
All right, thank you very much. We have the last set of tweets before we call it a time on this program. Shakiru tweets, will the commission take over the responsibilities of Nigerian missions abroad?
And Habila Kwara Zakshi tweets, if there is economic benefit to Diaspora Commission, then it is a very welcome development.
Douglas Orafa tweets, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs handles diplomatic affairs across the world, not coordinating diaspora resources on the home front.
Excellent.
All right. Arctic Kenneth Ken tweets, if there is a challenge in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it should be addressed. We don't need this commission.
And then Dole Jack Solomon says, having thanked the government and stakeholders for the passage of the Act, we however appeal for the passage and signing into law of the Diaspora Voting Rights Bill.
All right, and this one is coming from Douglas Orafa. Did you just take that?
I just took that. Let's take change to progress.
Okay.
Now, it's a good development. This is a commission that will bring our people in diaspora together. It's a very good development, he says, for Nigeria. All right, now those are the tweets that we can take. We would, of course, like to appreciate our guests, Alistair Shoyede, who joined us via Skype from London. Of course, we've lost the connection. You saw him, of course, making his contributions to our discussion. And then we also would like to thank Abdullahi Dauda, that's a Nigerian diaspora based in New York. Thank you for being with us on the program this morning. As well as Samuel Adewusi, a lawyer from Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, we appreciate you being with us on the program this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, now very quickly, let's move on now to our complimentary segments, and we're taking sports.
The African Cup of Nations could be moved to the summer as part of changes being discussed at a two-day African Football Symposium in Rabat, Morocco, by the continent's ruling body. The Nations Cup's timing in January and February has long frustrated clubs in Europe, where many Africans play. Also, one of the proposals to be discussed at the symposium, which will have NFF President Amaju Pinnick and other top Nigerian delegates in attendance, is that the biennial finals could also be boosted from 16 teams to 24. Africa's leading club competitions, the CAF Champions League and the Confederation Cup, will also be scrutinized. Meanwhile, Nigeria's top-flight league action returns today as the battle for the league title, continental ticket and top-flight survivor intensify. Threatened with relegation, defending champions Enugu Rangers host MFM FC as the Enugu outfit slipped into the bottom for this past weekend after an away loss in Kano, while MFM FC firmed up second place thanks to Stephen Ode's winning strike against Wiki Tourist. 7th place Enyimba will be put to test when they host 5th place Lobby Stars as they win for the Aba-based club ensures they return into the top 4. Leaders Plateau United and FC Ifeanyi meet in a top half clash in Jaws, with 3rd place Akwa United will be at home against 11th place Abia Warriors.
All right, let's quickly take a peep at latest developments on the foreign scene. And for that, we join our correspondent, who it is now? Just
Patricia.
Patricia Esamiloba.
Well, thank you and welcome. The U.S. Department has unveiled new economic sanctions against Iran, targeting at least 16 individuals and entities for supporting what it said was illicit Iranian actors or transnational criminal activities. In a statement, the U.S. Treasury Department said it is imposing new sanctions against Iran over its ballistic missile program and for contributing to regional tensions. The U.S. says those sanctioned had supported Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps by developing drones and military equipment, producing and maintaining boats, and procuring electronic components. The Treasury Department accused others to have planned the theft of U.S. and Western software programs and then sold it to Iran's government. This development is coming just after the U.S. administration declared that Iran is complying with the nuclear deal. Now to Asia. After the recent live-fire drills by the Chinese forces, the Chinese government has called for immediate withdrawal of the Indian troops from the disputed territory high in the Himalayan mountains. This call comes after the report of the presence of army brigade equipped with machine guns, rocket launchers, guns and mortars in the Tibet region. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lu Kang said the Indian forces had to leave to avoid an escalation of the situation. China has insisted that Indian troops stay away before talks can take place to settle the most protracted standoff between nuclear-armed neighbors. And that's foreign news on Good Morning Nigeria. Good morning.
All right, now let's go over now to our arts and entertainment desk, and there is an interesting story with regard to what to do with waste. The city of Lagos, of course, is set to produce nearly 10,000 metric tons of waste every day. Useless to some, but not so to an individual who is our focus, as Ngozi Chude tells us.
Old rubber automobile tires on the way to be transformed from trash to beautiful interior, decorative and furniture pieces. A variety of handcrafted furniture and home decor by Olamide Babajide, who started recycling in 2014.
Over time, I noticed that waste is a general problem. Waste management is a problem in Nigeria that we've not been able to find a solution. Most times we see government coming up with sanctions, threats, and penalties, but it's not working. So I felt the best way to make it work is to find a solution where people can make money out of waste or turn waste to something good.
From plastics, wood, straws, tires and more, this computer science graduate believes the dunghill is a treasure base. This idea came to her during a trip to United Arab Emirates, where she saw art made from recycled materials selling for hundreds of dollars. Launching her company in 2014 in Lagos, Olamide has not only helped to tackle the issue of waste management in Nigeria, but is also creating employment opportunities for youth. With these functional and ornamental pieces, she has exhibited her work in parts of Africa and the Middle East.
Right, let's quickly take a look at the weather forecast for the rest of today.
Hello and welcome to the weather segment. We expect thunderstorms to prevail over Damaturu, Maiduguri, Jos, Mambila Plateau and Jalingo axis in the morning. And early morning thunderstorms may also affect parts of Kebbi, while there are chances of rains over the coastal cities, and the remaining part of the country will be under cloudy conditions. Later in the afternoon, partly cloudy skies are expected over the north, while chances of rains are probable over the central, the inland cities of the south, and the coastal cities. That's the weather for Wednesday. I'm Sophia Hassan-Yunusa. Let's take a look at temperature forecast.
All right, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We've done it again, of course, not without you. So do join us again tomorrow. It's going to be Thursday's edition. I am Claire Delapo Abdurazak. See you then.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join Claire in appreciating your being with us on the program today. We wish you the very best and see you tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning.